In every establishment, there tends to be a hierarchy. A majority of people fall into the category of followers. A select few are given the title of advisors, and oftentimes there's only one person who serves as leader. The burden that a leader must carry is something that is great. The sanity and well-being and the security of many rest on his or her shoulders. Now, currently in the Boruto era, during his S-rank mission to find a cure for Naruto's chakra illness, Kakashi Hatake has found himself in a situation where the fear of one person who has been called to lead an entire country has subconsciously made him think back to his own dark moments where Kakashi doubted his ability to become the 6th Hokage after he lost his Sharingan. It would be because Kakashi initially pushed away his call to leadership due to his own fears of being unfit to be Hokage and not powerful enough to protect the village that Kakashi recognized the fear of the person that he was speaking to, who revealed that they were called to the task of leadership. However, whereas Kakashi eventually accepted the role of Hokage in full by formally becoming the Hokage, this person, instead they refused the call to action and they punted it off to another person while feeling guilty and afraid of their decision, knowing that they gave someone else a major burden that they must carry. Though Kakashi hasn't been a sensei for over 16 years, Kakashi will find himself giving words of wisdom to another young soul, much in the same way that he would guide the various members of Team 7 when he was their Jonin squad leader. In today's edition of Kakashi Retsuden, we're gonna take a look at how Kakashi addressed the crippling fear that Prince Nanaar had when it came to becoming the leader of Radaku, a land where the Sage of Six Paths once lived, and how it all tied back into Kakashi's time before he formally became the 6th Hokage via the inauguration ceremony. The information comes to us from the Kakashi Retsuden novel, which is a trilogy of novels that's set between the events of the Mujina Bandits arc and the Ao arc of the Boruto story. It's during this time, after the Sasuke and Shikamaru Shinden novels, that Naruto's come down with a deadly chakra illness. In an effort to save Naruto, Kakashi travels over 30 days non-stop to the land of Radaku, all in search for a cure for Naruto, while Kakashi pretends to be the tutor of Prince Nanaar, both looking for answers for Naruto's cure and being positioned in what will inevitably turn into a dangerous power struggle between parties. Sasuke and Sakura on the other side of Radaku have gone undercover, and they as well are searching for a cure for Naruto. And for more information about Sasuke and Sakura's mission, I have an entire playlist that's set up for the Sasuke Retsuden novel for anyone who's curious about that story. In the scene I'm going to share with you guys, it's the 1-year anniversary of the king's death. On the outskirts of Radaku, it's been struck with famine and drought, leaving bodies all throughout the street, while villagers closer to the capital live completely oblivious to the fact that there's a drought headed their way. Prince Nanaar has locked himself into a room and he's refusing to come out because of the fear that his sister will ask him to take up the mantle of king, and out of shame that he turned down his royal duty and forced his sister to become queen. Upon hearing from Kakashi that Nanaar's assistant, a young woman named Margot, will be brutally whipped with chains as punishment if Nanaar doesn't appear in the capital, Nanaar agrees to travel the next 3 days on the condition that Kakashi accompanies him. After the two ride their horse for the next day, the two stop in a village for a rest for the night. Nanaar, unable to sleep, begins to walk around the city. It's then that he finds Kakashi sitting under a tree, seemingly hidden, as he's reading one of the books that he stole from the royal library, which, as a reminder, these books are considered to be off limits to anybody, including the royal family. Now, it's in this moment that Kakashi learns of Nanaar's fear for leadership, and he offers him some much needed words of encouragement. So like always, what I'll do now is read the scene in question, then I'll come back to you guys my thoughts, and it's here I'm gonna begin quoting. Kakashi, I don't want to go to the capital. Prince Nanaar, are there people there you don't want to meet? Kakashi asked. Nanaar nodded reluctantly. There are people I don't want to meet, mainly my big sister. I can't look at her. Kakashi waited for Nanaar to speak again, but Nanaar stayed silent and stayed near Kakashi without exactly going anywhere. I've always wondered. Kakashi opened his mouth. Why is it that your sister and not you? Why is it that she is the one who inherited the throne? Based on the rules of the country, from what I can see, it's usually the eldest son who should inherit it. The eldest son is going to be you. Isn't that right, Nanaar? Kakashi asked. Well, my sister, she's a lot better than me. She studied a lot more. She's really smart. Nanaar stared at the butter lamp that Kakashi had in his hand. The night air was still loosened by the flames around the lamp. I didn't want to do it. I was asked by the Prime Minister if I was willing to take up the throne, but I said I wouldn't do it. I said that my older sister should do it. Why would you do such a thing? Kakashi asked. I don't want to have to work from morning until night like my father, Nanara added in his own head. He was still young, he should have a lot of fun memories, but now the only thing that he could remember was his father's frowning face. He was always in his office, always working, except for when they very rarely had time to play together. Anyway, the Prime Minister told me that he respected my wishes. Then my sister, she became the queen and everything was fixed. So, Prince Nanara, did your sister actually want to become the queen? I don't know, but she took care of it herself, and I was encouraged by the Prime Minister to go live in a local village that had nothing to do with politics. Do you actually regret that choice? Not even a little? Kakashi asked. Nanara shook his head slowly. Living in Nagare Village is really fun, but I could have done something really bad to my sister. Nanara knew. His sister. His kind sister, she'd be the one who would take the throne on his behalf anyway. If he refused it at first, then he knew right away that his sister would take on the call. That's why Nanara was able to give up his right of his inheritance with a peace of mind. He knew his sister wouldn't be irresponsible like himself. Minari, she accepted the throne. And Nanara, he gained his freedom. He knew right away that his sister would be a good queen, the queen that the country needed. I pushed everything onto my sister, therefore I'm scared to go to the capital. Nanara hesitated for a moment and then he nodded. Well, you see, I'm really just afraid to meet my sister. I can't look her in the eyes. If my sister wants to leave the throne, Nanara, speaking words he previously avoided. Kakashi looked very closely at Nanara. So, Prince Nanara, do you insist on becoming the king yourself? Nanara didn't want to have his sister to have a hard time. He pulled his lips and dropped his gaze. He couldn't look at Kakashi either. Kakashi's shadow was dry on the ground, and it was stretched in an irregular shape. It was his father's face that came to Nanara's mind. No, I don't want to become king. I refuse it. After muttering to himself, Kakashi's voice suddenly became composed and gentle. Well, Prince Nanara, you can't really force yourself, can you? But if you go to the capital and you talk directly with your sister, you might have a change of heart. Kakashi touched Nanara's shoulders and turned them backwards towards the house that they were staying at, and it could be seen at the end of the road. It's better to go on to bed now, Prince Nanara. It'll be tomorrow soon. We have a long day ahead of us. You need to get your rest, Kakashi said. End quote. So what I love about this scene right here is that Kakashi takes note of what's really bothering Nanara, and he shows patience in allowing him the opportunity to work his way through his words fully in order to find the words to express himself. Nanara did the one thing that Kakashi could never force himself to do when he was offered the role of 6th Hokage, which is Nanara forced the issue and refused the call to leadership and made someone else take up the role that he was given himself. Like I've talked about in my video on why Kakashi almost didn't become the 6th Hokage, Kakashi, due to the loss of his Sharingan and inability to safely perform the Raikiri, didn't feel that he was worthy to become Hokage, despite people like Tsunade repeatedly telling him that he was the only person who was fit to become Hokage. While Kakashi did verbally agree to become 6th Hokage, he kept pushing back his ceremony, forcing Tsunade to officially continue with her duties because Kakashi hadn't officially had a ceremony yet. It was because Kakashi was in that dark place mentally that Kakashi knew exactly where Nanara's head was. However, he also knew, given how fickle and fragile that Nanara was, if he pushed the young prince too much, too hard, and too soon, that it would lead to the boy never accepting his role as being the rightful leader for Daku. This scene also confirms that Kakashi has begun to suspect that the only one who can end the drought and the famine in this land is going to be Prince Nanara, and that he can effectively wield the tool that was left behind by the Sage of Six Paths, which was stated to possess incredible power. Upon seeing how close he was to losing the boy, and knowing that people were dying on the outskirts of the country, Kakashi wisely backed off, choosing to let Nanara sleep another night. Instead, Kakashi came to the decision to fight Nanara's demons another day. Kakashi already had a bad feeling about the Prime Minister. He had already suspected him of manipulating the situation in Radaku from the shadows, manipulating the queen, and now Kakashi found himself on a crash course where he would soon meet the Prime Minister. Potentially the person who both stood in the way of ending the coming plague that was coming to this land, as well as the answers to finding Naruto's cure. The only real questions in this moment for Kakashi Kakashi were, did the Prime Minister know about the information, and was he withholding information that was seemingly meaningless to him but will be invaluable to Kakashi, whose success on his mission meant life or death for Naruto? Well guys, that's gonna be it for this edition of Kakashi Resident. I'll be back soon with another edition soon, but as always guys, if you like anything I had to say, don't forget to comment, rate, subscribe, and share. Thank you so much for watching all the way to the end. Have an awesome day guys.